In part 7 of the 2013 Miami Hurricanes opponent series, I'm going to preview the 2013 Wake Forest Demon Deacons, who come to Sun Life Stadium on October 26th. Here's what you need to know about the Demon Deacons. They are coached by Jim Grobe, who is entering his 12th season in Winston-Salem. His record is 73-74, and he's the first coach in more than 50 years of Wake football to have a career mark this close to 500. You have to go back to P. Head Walker, who went 77, 55, and 6 from 1937 to 1950, to have someone close to or above 500 in their tenures. Now, before coming to Wake, he spent 6 years at Ohio, going 500 there, 33, 33, and 1. But there's nothing to write home about on the surface. However, you have to consider the circumstances here about Ohio football. Before his arrival in Athens, Ohio, they won a total, the Bobcats I'm talking about, of 9 games in 6 years before he arrived. Now, after 2-8-1 in his first season in 1995, he never again slipped below 5 wins in the rest of his term there, and that includes an 8-3 record in 1997 and 7-4 in his final season in 2000. Now, the job he's done at Wake is nothing short of remarkable. They have finished over 500 5 times in his tenure there, and that includes an ACC title in 2006 and at least 8 wins in each season from 2006 to 2008. Now, in 2006, the pundits picked the Deacons to finish last in the conference in the preseason media poll. Well, all the Deacons did was make an FBS best 7-game improvement over a 4-7 2005 season by going 11-3 in 2006, which marked the first season with double-digit wins in their program's history. And by doing so, winning just his second ACC title, the other one being in 1970, but didn't go to a bowl game in 1970. In 2006, they went to the Orange Bowl where they lost to Louisville, which was their and the Deacons was their first bowl game in their history. Now, if you're a Wake Forest fan, I'm sure there are those fans that are reading this and watching this video that follow the Demon Deacons will remember that from that magical 2006 season, other than winning the ACC title, was the fact they went to Tallahassee and embarrassed the Noles 30-0. That win was their first road win in the series since 1959. As a result of that win, Jim Grobe was named both the ACC and National Coach of the Year. But he would show that the Deacons weren't just a one-hit wonder, as they would follow up that magical 2006 season with a 9-4 season in 2007, giving that program, when you combine that with just 8 wins in 2008, with an 8-win season in 2008, I'm sorry, that's 28 victories in a 3-year stretch from 2006 to 2008. Now, to put the job he's done in Winston-Salem into perspective, the next most successful 3-year period in their history was a 19-win stretch from 1944 to 1946. Now, as for the here and now, he will have new coaches on his staff for the 2nd straight year. He did lose 2 coaches this offseason, with Tim Duffy going to Oklahoma State in March and Lonnie Galloway going to West Virginia in January. Now, the critics of Jim Grobe will tell you that these departures, that Grobe just can't find good talent. He can find good talent. To prove that point, he moved outside linebacker coach Derek Jackson to the secondary to fill Duffy's role. And 2 new hires came in Warren Beeline, who takes over Jackson's old role with the linebackers, and wide receiver coach Taylor Stubblefield. Now, when you look at Beeline's resume, he spent 2 seasons, the last 2 years, in the same role with the Panthers, after being at Georgia for a year, 2010, and 8 years in Nashville with Vanderbilt from 2002 to 2009. Now that we've gotten the coaches out of the way, let's talk about the players that'll make Wake Forest successful or not in 2013. Offensively, you're going to see them go back to their roots, which is their run-first type of offense. To emphasize this point, let's take a look back at their last 2 teams. They threw the ball an average of 442 times. Now look back to 2005-2006. Those 2 teams combined threw for 580 times. Combined. Okay? The reason they're going back to more of a run-first offense is because of their personnel and the way Grobe uses it to his advantage. Now, okay, they can't go head-to-head with likes like Miami, FSU, Clemson, because they'll lose that battle every time. But by emphasizing the run more, it takes the heat off senior Tanner Price, who comes back as their offensive line. Now, Price is going to have to be more of a running quarterback this year, but not too much more. He's not a quarterback that you have to deal with running wise. But when you look at the certain sets of packages Grove will throw at opponents, the plan is to throw them off base a bit. Now, Price's strength is passing, though in 2012 his numbers dropped off dramatically after a very good 2011 campaign. The question here is there a balance that can work for them here? What they lack in depth, they make up for in performance. To emphasize that, in 2012, Price only averaged 5.6 yards per pass attempt, which was one of the worst in the FBS. And this coming off the season before where he averaged 7.1 yards a pass. Simply put, it's possible where he throws the ball only 325 times instead of 425 times. And that makes the offense better because he's doing more with less, and he's getting the backs more yards on the ground. At worst, he's a 3-year starting quarterback in a league, the ACC, which is big on quarterback play. Let's talk about the offensive line. They were at best inconsistent. As for their play here, that was at the heart of their problems last year. Let's go more into depth on why their role was inconsistent. One, you had to factor in that Price was hurried, harassed, and pressured a lot. And two, the backs such as senior Josh Harris and sophomore DeAndre Martin found it very tough to run inside between the tackles, and when they went outside, there wasn't much there either. The simple solution here is if you fix the offensive line, you fix the offense. Harris and Martin are going to see the ball a lot more in 2013, with Grove focusing more on the running game. One of those backs is going to get the ball over 200 times. Now, after Harris and Martin, the experience there drops off dramatically. Now, how will they use 4 freshmen back there? That's going to be the question. Now, 2 of those freshmen are redshirts, Joshua Wilhype and Dominique Gibson. The former being the one the coaches like very much, and the latter is a converted safety. The other 2, John Armstrong and Desmond Wortham, are in the mix as well. With Wake going back to their roots with the running game, having 5 backs doesn't hurt here. Now, you're going to think, hey, is the passing game non-existent? Not quite. It's still going to be there, but not as much as in years past. But when they do throw, they have a nice receiver in senior Michael Campanaro, who had 79 receptions for 763 yards last year. Now, all he's done in his career was steadily improve each year. Think about this. As a freshman, he only made 10 catches. In the last 2 years, he caught a minimum of 73 passes a season. The question here is, where did the passing game go in 2012? Now, while Campanaro was consistently his effective self, they don't have the home run threat nor the intermediate threat to take the pressure off the running game. They do have junior Orville Reynolds coming back. Now, Reynolds is a speedier running back size receiver with the burst to be the big play threat here. They have bigger receivers back size-wise in junior Brandon Terry, sophomore Sherman Ragland III, and junior Matt James. But they need to have Reynolds step up and be that other threat to make opposing defensive coordinators have to respect him and not focus too much on Campanaro and their running game. But that's not going to be easy. Their wide receiver core is near the bottom of the ACC, and that's not good. The weakest link here is the offensive line, and that's been the case for years now. However, with them going more back to a running game first, it'll take the heat off them a bit because they'll be doing less and won't be asked to match up athletically with the ACC's speedy defensive linemen. Now, this will benefit most from Grove's turn back the clock offensive shift. They have another boost with the fact that their staff decided not to unilaterally redshirt every freshman. They signed 4 linemen in February, and it's entirely possible that this entire group works into the 2 deep if given the opportunity. We'll have to wait and see how that plays out. Well, defensively, their D will be good to give teams like Miami, Clemson, and FSU and those teams fits. But we'll find that those 3 teams right there basically shows how Wake's going to go. If they want to take that next step, they have to be more detail oriented on this side of the ball. They have to do a better job on third downs and have more of a pass rush. They do have a lot of experience coming back, which is produced in the past, and they have all ACC talent here, but they really need to get it together before their opener against Presbyterian on August 29th. But there's reason for optimism here. They run a 3-4 defense, and the leader of that D-line is senior nose tackle Nikita Whitlock, a two-time All-ACC selection. Now, while he's only 6 foot and 250 pounds, don't let that fool you. He uses his leverage and technique to make opposing offensive linemen shake their heads. They have a lot of experience with Whitlock here coming back, but they also have senior defensive ends Christopher Redding and Zach Thompson. And depth-wise, they have sophomores Tyler Harris and Desmond Floyd, as well as half a dozen true redshirt freshmen and true freshmen. But this is going to be a front three to be dealt with. An area where production must be better in 2013 is at linebacker, especially give me more of a pass rush there. They finished in 2012 just inside the top 60 nationally in both sacks and tackles for loss. It's going to be up to junior Zachary Allen to step up and be the leader of this corps. Questions here are, who will help Wake replace Joey Ehrman, lost to graduation as their hybrid and outside linebacker, and can Allen be that guy that delivers consistently? If he can't, then look for them to turn to a redshirt freshman like Kevis Jones, who was very good in the spring, and they have senior Mike Olson back, but he'll be moving over to the weak side, which opens the door for Brandon Chubb to be the guy at middle linebacker. The leader of this group, and you can make an argument here for the whole defense, is senior Justin Jackson. This guy mans the strong side, and he's the top pure edge rusher with a motor that never stops. This entire group can run, hit, and cover. Now the secondary has to be better than it was last year. They failed to seize the opportunity to build off a 2011 campaign by allowing an additional yard per attempt and nearly 40 additional yards a game. Now with the rest of their decline against the pass can be tied to injuries in their defensive backfield. If they stay healthy, this unit will be better and their performance will be much stronger. No more of this being the case than at cornerback. We have junior Merrill Noel, who only started 8 games last year after having a very strong freshman year. But when he's healthy and confident, he's as good as any cornerback in the ACC. Joining him at cornerback is junior Kevin Johnson, who started all 12 games last year. But look for their staff to give more looks to sophomores Allen Ramsey and James Ward, especially if the latter loses out in the starting role as strong safety. That's the lone position for debate. They get A.J. Marshall back at free safety, but they need to find a replacement for Chikwuem Okoro, gone to graduation. Think about this on special teams. Can you believe sophomore Chad Hedlund could be even better than last year's kicker Jimmy Newman? And Jimmy Newman was just horrible, okay? They also bring back sophomore punter Alexander Canal, who's a reigning All-ACC pick. And they get back most of their personnel who contributed in the running game here, if that's a good thing. The return game isn't the issue here. Their biggest issue is their coverage. They allowed 4 touchdown returns last year, and the hidden yards they allowed just killed them field position wise. In closing, overall, this team brings back experience and should produce here. However, when you look at their schedule, they have to go to Clemson and come down to Sun Life to play Miami. They do host FSU on November 9th, and after a bye week, host Duke in the ACC finale before closing the 2013 season at Vanderbilt the next week. They're not a strong team, but Grove gets the most out of what he has. At the end of the day, I'm going to go with 8-4 for the Demon Deacons in 2013. And in part 8 of this series, I'm going to talk about a team that's a dark horse to maybe win the whole thing, and that's the Florida State Seminoles.